Welcome to another episode of the Georgia-Florida Baseball Show, brought to you by Georgia Showcase Baseball and its owner, Ben House. Ben, how we doing?
Doing good, KP. How are you?
I'm good, Ben. I'm good. And today, I'm your host, Kevin Perkins, and today our guest is James Jackson, assistant baseball coach at Tuskegee University. James, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, good. Today we are going to talk about college sports. We're not talking billion-dollar industries. We're not talking conference realignment. We are talking about the essence of college sports, which is books and tuition, room and board, making the most out of your opportunities. And we're going to talk about James's path to getting to work at a historic university and the trials that go along with trying to accomplish that at a smaller school. James, does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, we're going to do that after the break.
This is the Georgia-Florida Baseball Show, brought to you by Coach Ben House with Kevin Perkins from Surrounded by Sports.
And we are back. Folks, like, subscribe, tell your friends what we're trying to do here. And thank you to our sponsors, the Towns, Davis and Associates LLC, attorneys and counselors at law, winning millions for justice for you and Arden's Garden, Atlanta's premier source for juices, smoothies, and plant-based foods. And as a note, I have been sick all week, and I bought some Arden's Gardens little energy pickups at the local Publix here in Pensacola. They helped me out a little bit, just for a little actual use the product. Okay, now let's move into it, guys. James, you're an Atlanta guy, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then you played ball. Tell us a little bit about your path. You played at Alabama State, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I was a pitcher at Alabama State for a few years before joining the Army. And after finishing my military career, I decided I wanted to get back into baseball. And so having a son, Christian Jackson, I decided to really take on full force of training him. And then I started coaching travel ball, high school ball, and eventually now college ball. I started in, summer college ball with the Atlanta Blues. And that was my first experience for the past 3 years of either recruiting, helping find the players, as well as coaching and training. So those are the things that I really enjoy doing with baseball.
Okay. Now, you coached a little bit with the 13, 14 U's at Georgia Showcase. Is that right?
Yeah, Showcase baseball for sure. It was a 14 in the U team. It was 3 players on that team actually got drafted from that team. I know Ben will tell you about the 3 of them, including one, of course, my son. But yeah, really good baseball program. They start with the foundation of the kids, helping them to really learn baseball, develop their passion for the game, and understand how serious it is. If you want to play at the next level, you really got to start with a good foundation and then get around the best trainers that you can that really know the game if your parents don't know the game. And then let those parents work with those trainers and develop those kids for the next, 10 straight years. If they start at 8 years old, 8 to 18, you need to find the best trainers that you can possibly find that can develop your kids if you don't have that skill set. That I typically say, baseball is a father-son sport. So the father needs to really know baseball, because that's somebody that's going to be the one that's training you. And if they don't, they need to get their knowledge up by meeting other trainers that really know baseball, because, you got one shot. Those 10 years have to really be dedicated, but it has to be around people that really know baseball.
Okay. Ben, how quickly did you know James was going to be a good coach and a good fit for what baseball needs?
Just being around the parks, me and James, we developed a relationship, just talking baseball while our kids were growing up, and just keeping that relationship throughout the years, just picking his brains on different things that he thought that really I put into my program. And then as our kids grew up, James actually started helping me coach in the program. And like he was talking about, Antonio Anderson, Christian Jackson, and Amari Daniels, all 3 of those kids trained under James, and those kids end up getting drafted 2022 and 2023 class. So James has helped me tremendously with actually developing kids and actually helping those kids go on to, live their dreams and continue to play baseball.
Right. Now, James, this is your first year at Tuskegee University, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. From what we've talked about, there's 2 coaches there.
That's correct.
Right. So you got what's that?
Chadwick Hall is the head coach, and I'm his assistant. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so it's kind of tough, right? You're doing everything, right?
Yes, we definitely do everything. So normally, if you go to any of the Division One, Power 5 schools, you'll see probably 10 different people that's part of the baseball program, from the pitching coach, hitting coach. You'll have the director of personnel. You'll have director of recruiting. You'll have all of those different things, plus the ground crew. But Coach Hall and I, we do all of that, just the 2 of us, So we have to do all the recruiting, the grounds, the player development. I'm the hitting coach, pitching coach, and it's something I really enjoy, But a lot of people don't know the dynamics of what 2 coaches do. We do the same work that 10 coaches would do under a much larger program.
Well, James, I mean, if you go to high school games, there's usually 7 coaches walking around.
Well, some schools, some of the smaller schools, you have a head coach and an assistant. It just depends on how large the school is.
Right.
And
right.
Well, you're only going to have 2 of those coaches actually coaching.
Right.
The other five were just there, pretty much in high school.
That's right.
Right. So, what are some of the difficulties you've had adjusting to the college environment, or have you had any? Has it been a seamless transition?
It's been pretty seamless. I mean, the coach, he was doing it all by himself. I mean, that's how talented Coach Hall is. He was pretty much doing it all by himself. So when I came in, he has a really good outline set up every day for practices. And so when I came in, he just wanted me to do looking at the hitters while he was hitting balls on the field, or vice versa. So we just swap back and forth and help each other get through the day. But the challenge, of course, would be recruiting, trying to find it, because Tuskegee is like number 4 HBCU in the nation. Call it one of the Black Ivy League schools. And so we have a challenge of finding an athlete who also has the academic prowess to actually be able to come to Tuskegee. So I'll find an athlete, he's throwing in the mid-80s, and that's really good for our level, but then he doesn't have the grades to get in. He doesn't make the ACT score, doesn't have the GPA. And so that's the biggest challenge, is finding the athlete that fits what we're trying to do, that has the academic, qualifications to come in.
Right. Now, being your first year, you haven't had your first recruiting class yet, have you?
Right. So I'm doing that now. So I've got a few guys that we're bringing in, a couple of pitchers, a couple of power hitters. I like speed. I love to steal a lot of bases. So I'm always looking for that when I recruit.
Okay. You told me something interesting about that earlier in conversation. You said if a guy's an average, a little bit above average hitter, he's got to be able to run, because you need that advantage once he gets on base.
Exactly. When you all you can do is hit singles and you can't run, you're still set up for the double play. So the goal is to make sure that if we get you on base, hopefully steal you to second, then I like to bunch you to third. If we're trying to just get you on, get you over, get you in, I need a guy who can steal second base. And if you can't, then that means if hard hit ball to shortstop is still a double play intact. And we don't want to have that always the situation every time one of our hitters gets on first.
Right. Ben, it's neat to hear people talk about stealing bases, isn't it? People went away from what we knew as baseball. It turned into try to hit the ball out of the park all the time for several years,
Yeah, I know in the era when I came up, it was, we played a lot of small ball. Guys putting down bunts, sacrificing themselves for the sake of the team. Nowadays, it's more me.
I think that there's some small ball, what you're talking about, and you talked about giving yourself up, which is a part of being a part of a team, right? And at your level, James, being a part of the team is a huge deal, right? We're not talking about guys that are wondering where they're going to get drafted as much.
Right. That's right. And a lot of them, like he was saying, and that's on every level. A lot of kids try to hit the ball out of the park, and they want to use the bigger bats. And I try to, convince them to use a smaller bat so they can get the bat to the front of the plate, hit the ball all over the field. as opposed to being late and popping it up and grounding out. So that is a challenge that you may have. But yeah, most definitely, they all have a role. So the coach sits them down and says, this is your role basically for this team for this season. And if you get a little stronger, get a little better, then perhaps your role will change throughout the season or for next season.
Right. Now, you want to talk a little bit about developing ball players? I know sure. If you want to use your son as an example, that'd be great, because I thought that was an interesting conversation we had.
Yeah, most definitely. I would take him to the PG showcases every year to give us a vacation. And I knew how hard it was in order to develop a kid. So I would just take him every December to PG and let him do an event to see what his 60 time was, his arm strength, his bat speed. And then I would go back and develop training. And for the next 12 months, we'd work on whatever I came up with. And we did that he went to like 11 PG showcases, and as you know, they're pretty costly, almost $700 a pop. But I did 11 of them with him just to keep training him. And so we would do a lot of hills. We'd get up at 3:30 in the morning. I'd have him do hills. We'd pull sleds. And I'm talking from age 8 all the way to 18. He'd pull sleds. 3:30 in the morning, we'd go to a batting cage. And of course, no one would be there early in the morning. And so we would do, hitting off the tee. I would pitch to him. I would hit him ground balls basically in the facility. And then he would go to practice after school. And we just had that regimen going for approximately 10 years straight. And he would throw footballs. He would throw weighted footballs to get his arm stronger. He'd do a lot of K-band work for his running and a lot of sprinting. But it was just, like I say, an ongoing thing. A good friend of mine named Joe Austin, he's a good friend of Ben's as well. Joe and I played college baseball, high school baseball together. And our fathers didn't hit us ground balls. And so the pitchers at Alabama State would hit the infielders ground balls, and I was hitting them to Joe one day in practice. And he says, you know what, man, if I ever have a son, I'm going to hit him so many ground balls that he's going to get drafted out of high school. And we laughed about it. And I said, yeah, me too, And sure enough, Joe's oldest son, his third son, they both got drafted out of high school, So we knew that it was really just about training and really developing our kids to a degree where we didn't stop. And that would be one of the ways that they would make it.
And that's just a testament of your work, man. And I wish a lot of these parents would do the same with their kids, even if they don't have a father in their lives. Training is very important, especially when you're trying to play at that next level, trying to play travel ball at a high level. So many parents just depend on coaches just to have practices and think that their kids are going to get the necessary training that they need, but it doesn't work like that. Practice is necessary, but training is the most essential thing that you're going to be able to do with your kid. Is getting him that proper training, not with just any trainer, but someone that's reputable to be able to take your kid to that next level, to get him to understand what he's doing. As far as getting that right approach at the plate, of making sure that he's got his hands out front. Those things are very important. You can't get those things just in practice. You have to actually get those things during a one-on-one trainer. And I think you've done a great job with that with your son, James. And I wanted to commend you on that.
Thank you.
Tell me, okay, I thought this was interesting. Tell me how you came to throwing the footballs.
I started researching. My son was stuck at 82 miles an hour when he was pitching, and he couldn't seem to break 82. And it looked like his arm was snapping real fast. Looked like it should be going towards 90, but it wasn't. It kept showing 82. So I started researching football players, and I started to notice something. All of the guys who played quarterback, they all could throw 95 or 92 or better miles per hour. Jameis Winston was one of the subjects. And I said, well, now, if he's playing football basically most of the year and he just goes out during the spring to play baseball, but he's throwing 96, 97 miles an hour from the pitcher's mound. I said, there has to be something to that football. I said, but because it's only a 1 pound football, but Jameis has been throwing it his whole life, I could see how that strength was built in. How would I get my son's arm strong with a football in a matter of weeks or a couple of months? The 1 pound football might not do it. So I said, let me see. So I went to Amazon and typed in 2 pound football just to see if it would pop up. And sure enough, there's a 2 pound football and a 3 pound football. And it was like the light bulb went off. I said, okay. So I read the comments and it says My son was throwing 40 yards. Now he's throwing 55 yards after throwing the 2-pound football. And I was just so excited. I said, I'm going to see if this actually works. So I ordered the 2 pounds, and we would throw like the 1-pound football 20 times, and then we throw the 2-pound football 20 times. And then I would throw a 7-ounce baseball. You know, the average baseball is a 5 ounces. So I would throw a 7-ounce, and he would do that same regimen, 20, 20, and 10. And we did it for 6 weeks. We went up to Lake Point, and the first time he threw a fastball, it was 86 miles an hour. So it went from 82 to 86. And I started smiling again. I said, all right, let's keep going. So for the next 6 weeks, we did that. We went to PG by the summer. He was throwing 91, 92 miles an hour. So that was what I came up with on my own, just studying and figuring out footballs could actually do it, but the weighted football would do it quicker.
And he winds up getting drafted.
Right. He got drafted by the Braves in 2022. Yeah, out of high school.
Right. And so, and that velocity was there. It was just untapped.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Now, Ben, you were an incredible quarterback at the high school level. Does that make sense to you? You threw the ball.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. That helped me out tremendously playing baseball. You know, being a quarterback in high school and in middle school and growing up in Pop Warner and Little League football. You know, it's just that helped my velocity tremendously playing baseball. Just throwing the football consistently, just about every day. I was throwing the football, so I can definitely understand where James is coming from. But you know, throwing the football, and I see a lot of the kids now that are pitching that's playing Little League football. I had a kid that played with me a couple of years ago. He's one of the top quarterbacks. Avery Edwards. He's one of the top quarterbacks here in Atlanta, and he's a pitcher. So I can see where his arm strength is coming from.
Right. How often did you throw deep balls at practice at Washington?
Just about every day.
Ben went to Washington High School. I mean, you could throw it what? 50 yards, 70 yards?
Yeah, 60 yards. Yeah, easily.
Easy. You threw a couple of those a day at least.
Yes. Yeah. So that was like long tossing.
That's where I was going.
Yeah, that was like long tossing the baseball. So yeah, if you put that in that perspective, yeah, throwing a football 60 yards is like throwing long toss.
Right. Okay, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna wrap it with a little bit of talk about how special it is where James works, and maybe some of the adjustments kids have to make to get to the college level after this. That was a break from our commercial sponsors. Thank you very much to our sponsors, Towns, Davis and Associates, LLC, attorneys and counselors at law, winning millions for justice for you, and Arden's Garden, Atlanta's premier source for juices, smoothies, and plant-based foods, and also to Showcase Apparel, who is a sponsor of the show and Ben's show. Ben, I have been very impressed. I follow you obviously on your Instagram, which if you're watching the show, you should too. All the uniforms I see that you guys have made for people, and that's one of that's one of your shirts right there on you, right?
Yes, sir. The show. Yeah, that was one of the jerseys that we wore last year. So every year we come out with a different theme. So the show, it was MLB the show. So we just put our SB and then the show
nice
on the jersey. So yeah. So we come up with some cool concepts for different organizations. So yeah.
Yeah, James, I'm going up to Atlanta this week and I'm gonna raid his apparel company.
I told James I'm gonna have to get Tuskegee and some of that SA gear.
Oh, there you go. Now, so let's talk a little bit about first of all, you went to Alabama State. Now you're at Tuskegee University. It has to be special working in this environment for you, James.
Definitely. Yeah, I actually pitched against Tuskegee when I was at Alabama State. So I remember that back in the day. And Tuskegee Airmen, and as I mentioned earlier, the number 4 HBCU in the nation. Booker T. Washington was one that started the school back July 4th, 1881. And so it was one of the first in the state, obviously, to educate the slaves, former slaves, and their descendants, and it's now one of the best schools in the country. So the history of the university, I was very proud to get an opportunity to work at the university.
Right. What are some of the things that you find kids are having trouble adjusting to at the college level from in their first year or early on in their careers?
Just their academics. A lot of times in high school, the teachers kind of help you. They have this makeup day. They call it I forgot what they call it, but it's like credit you can do on the weekends and make up work. You don't have a lot of makeup work in college. Either you get it or you don't. And so you have to really learn to study hard every day, because you're not going to get the extra credit type stuff to get your grades back up. You got to come in wanting it, and you've got to be serious about your academics in order to do well at Tuskegee.
Right. And you're talking now, in order for your program to be successful, you're going to have to develop guys, which means there's going to have to be a lot of work at practice, but there's also going to have to be a lot of physical work too, right? Where they're running on their own, or they're lifting on their own, or they're doing stuff like that. And the workload in school is very hard as well.
Exactly. Some of these kids taking 5, 6 classes, and then they're still expected to come to practice. Sometimes we have early morning practices. Then obviously I'm on a trip right now. We're playing against Lane. We split with them yesterday in a doubleheader, and we play them again today at noon. And so I was happy I could get on, this morning before we have our game. But so they've got to juggle a lot of things in order to be a really good college kid. Grades are the most important. The teacher, the coach is checking their grades every day, basically, to make sure that they're making the grades. If they're failing classes, we're immediately on them, and they're immediately talking to their professor to get those grades up.
Right. So in a lot of ways, they're learning about their bodies. They're learning about the game of baseball. But the reality of it is they're learning a work ethic.
Exactly.
And a work ethic that's going to follow them throughout their lives, hopefully, and a thirst for knowledge as well.
Exactly. That's right.
Right. So, man, I think sounds like a good spot to end on, guys. What do you think?
Yes, it is.
Y'all right, man. James, I'm going to let you get to coaching some baseball. Good luck with your game this afternoon.
Hey, thank you so much. You guys have a great day.
Okay, you too.
All right, thanks, James.
Yeah, thank you, folks. Thank you for watching the show. We appreciate it. Thank you to our sponsors, Towns Davis Associates and LLC, and Arden's Gardens, Atlantic's premier source for juices, smoothies, and plant-based foods. And y'all have a great day. Thank you very much.